I think my wife gave me a computer virus for Christmas.
Everybody's getting a virus for Christmas. Our other dungeon master had to cancel running the one shot he was going to run last night because his kid had strep throat, and they had to cancel 2 weeks earlier. They were going to run the same one shot because they had COVID. So, yeah. So hopefully you don't have any actual viruses. Although I know you're just now getting over something.
I think I had RSV, which was it spiked up in this area, but it's mainly just for infants.
Well, I mean, you're just a big infant, so
I am just a big child. So, hello, I'm the Grumpy Dungeon Master Christopher, along with Grumpy Dungeon Master Jay.
Yep, and we have a guest with us,
an honorary Grumpy Dungeon Master Bill.
Well, thank you.
Hello, Bill.
How's it going?
So Bill here helps me run Adventures League here in Charleston at his Energy. He usually plays in my game on Wednesdays and runs one of his own on Mondays. And if we ever have enough people, which we haven't for a while, on Wednesdays he can do a second table. Pretty much it's just us two running all the stuff. And I figured for our Grumpy Dungeon Master year review number 3, Electric Tree Boogaloo. I'd bring him on and he can tell us a bit about himself and what a joy it is to run Adventures League, and kind of like a pseudo guest.
Yeah.
Because it's 2023.
Yep, and honestly, it's our podcast. We kind of do what we want. We have whoever we want on here. So I have to say, Bill, you are the first dungeon master that I have met in, God, probably a decade that has actually been playing longer than I have. Other that we had Luke Gygax on here, but other than him, you're the first one. Everybody else started in like 5th edition.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I started chainmail. Those of you who don't know what chainmail is, look it up.
Yep. It's the OG D&D when it was just a miniatures game.
Yeah. And you got pamphlets, not books.
Yeah, see, I started with Redbox and then went into 2nd edition. I started in like 1990, so good while ago.
I've got a Redbox sitting around.
God, I wish I had all my old boxes. But anyway.
I gave most of my kids stuff when I quit at 4th edition, and then got drugged back into 5th edition with my wife and her friends who wanted to have a DM, and yeah.
And here you are.
Yep. And then I figured if I was doing it for them, I might as well do it like I used to with RPGA.
Yep.
Those of you that don't know, RPGA was the precursor to Adventure Leagues, and I think they had something in between too.
Yeah, dungeon encounters or random encounters or something like that.
Something like that. RPGA was what was around when I started, and I don't even remember what the one after that was. There was another one, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
And right now, it's all been reduced down to a Discord channel on the official Dungeons and Dragons Discord. And that's Adventures League now. No updates, no nothing. But you can publish your own materials to Adventures League, which I guess is good.
I mean, if they're not supporting it and they're letting people do that, what the hell? Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we right before you had shown up, Jay, Bill and I were talking about, like, what are we going to do between, January, February, March, April of next year? Like, there's really no books that are going to be easily run. If you run, like, the Shattered Obelisk, you'll probably get through all of Phandelver before you can start running. The new book comes out and everything will be starting over again. So you could start like at midway through the story after Phandelver, but then you need to have people have tier 2 characters, which you can make, but it's not as fun for a lot of people. Planescape's an option, but that's kind of crazy to play through.
They're not supporting it, So I think it's more of a matter of just keep your community active. Don't worry about what WotC is doing with Adventures League. You just need to show up and run games.
Well, that's the problem. Is that right now it's either you take this one guy. It's okay. So right here, there's one guy here posted today at 11:30. His name is on Discord. Some random blue mage. Okay. He posted his own content called Bloom and Doom, which is a Spelljammer tier 2 adventure. Okay. And it looks pretty solid just from the couple screenshots that are there. But I don't know like what's in it. Okay. I'd have to spend $4 to basically buy it, see if it's worthy of being played through, that there's no like strange topics that I can't touch on, like remember when my Everyone's Been Naughty got flagged for child abuse?
It did?
Yeah,
I didn't even remember that.
because Krampus had 3 kids that he was whipping in his satchel.
That's fair.
So like if I do that, if I trigger somebody that plays the game, and being it's an open public setting, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want my store in trouble. But I'm not going to spend $4 to see if Bloom and Doom is good enough. At least I know the official content from WotC is at least somewhat vetted.
Have you tried writing your own stuff?
But you technically can't do that unless it's published.
Once again, you're still thinking of it in terms of Adventures League. Adventures League's dead, man. Just run adventures and keep your local community active. That's what I'm saying.
That's the other thought too. I did kind of joke that I just run something of my own.
Yeah.
And Billy, you've been playing since Chainmail. What would you run?
Oh gosh. I like the Shattered Obelisk minus one thing. It's the Eldritch horror aspect of it. Now, don't get me wrong. I like that as a DM, but twisting player characters, adding extra limbs. There are some players that will go ballistic. And there are some they're like, oh cool,
Probably
look what I have. And of course when they stroll out to the rest of the realms, if they ever do, hey, I have this tentacle sticking out of my right arm.
Yeah, they would go to another store with that, they might complain,
Yeah, extra limbs and things like that's more of what you'd find in Dungeon Crawl Classics and not 5e D&D.
And that's basically what they've done. Is like, hey, double check with your players before you do this. Why'd you give us the option?
I mean, yeah, if it's in an official Wizards of the Coast 5th edition module, why are they even asking? Just run it or don't put it in there. But if it's in there, it should be run as it is.
And that's the big problem. Is just like when they retrofitted some of the stuff from Spelljammer, races that were subservient races to begin with. That's what they were designed for.
Oh yeah. They've done so much like that. We talk about here constantly that they'll never even touch on Dark Sun as a playable setting even anymore because of it's got some very sensitive topics in there. And back when it came out in the 90s, I don't know, nobody cared. We played D&D.
Dark Sun was hey, we're playing Dark Sun. I have 3 characters ready because 2 of them are going to die.
Yeah, you're going to die. Yeah, you're going to die or get enslaved or be eaten or it's a horrific setting.
Yeah. And then that's the thing. It's like I do feel bad for when I run a session and let's say the players decide to do something that is very foolhardy and they get themselves killed because of it. Okay? Those players don't normally come back. Now, I find it hard, and Bill, you can give me your opinion on this too. I find it hard that if players are doing something so crazy and you've kind of like given them ample opportunity to run away or pull out or just don't do what you're about to do, and you still do it, and then the consequence is your character dies. And then in Adventures League, it's just 100 gold to come back in Tier 1, like 400 or something in Tier 2, which they have, because I'm giving them money every session. Like, so you just got to spend money to resurrect, but those players will never come back again because their character died. I mean, like, you've been witness to that, so it's like... You don't want to do that, but like, I don't want to be that DM that goes, "Well, I'm scared of killing you guys." No, I'll kill you. I will kill you.
If you walk into it after repeated warnings, everything, well, you walked into it. You're going to get what you're going to get. Like you were talking about that one session, we were going to wait for 3 days, quote unquote. Takes the place out. We start within 3 hours. The party has charged into the building. And the 2 players that are outside are like, yeah, screw this. I'm walking off.
Yeah. So, like, in your AL games, do you have that situation much at all, or is it just me? Or am I just,
no.
You're
Not the only one.
Okay. Makes me feel a little better, at least.
New players or less experienced players will just do all the crazy random stuff and lose characters. And the people who have played a long enough time, they sort of stop doing that because they figure out how not to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, you get those
that's
players that are like, "Oh, fire cleanses everything." It's an imp.
Yeah, we did have one player, and bless him, he's always fun. He's still learning the game, still very relatively young kid. It's just like, oh, I'm just going to play an all fire sorcerer. All right, let's go to hell, guys. I can't do anything. I cast fire spells. Yeah. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah.
Good luck.
We'll see what happens.
I bet you wish this was 3rd edition where you could actually, change that, but it's not.
But, like, there's the new edition coming out, and I think that's going to be a new way of grabbing a lot more players. Have you looked at any of the new edition yet, Bill?
Not really.
No. It doesn't change much. It's all just dumb stuff. Like, none of the stuff that that are problems, the 5th edition, are actually being changed or addressed. It's just all...
I haven't seen anything official, but I heard from one of my players that they're changing how counterspell works.
Great.
Ooh.
No, the change is actually for the better. Like, 'cause you know how counterspell works now. It's you cast, player cast fireball or whatever, you cast counterspell, it's 3rd level, it's automatically countered. They cast 4th level or higher, then you have to make the roll. So it is possible for a 5th level character to get lucky and counterspell like an 18th level wizard. That's possible. From what he said, and once again, I have not verified this, so it might be wrong, but what he said was that now, instead of doing it that way, is you actually get the 18th level wizard, say the 3rd level or 5th level wizard threw the counter spell at the 18th level wizard. The 18th level wizard would just get a saving throw against it. So they're using his stats instead of the other guy rolling.
Makes a little more sense.
It does make it better as well. Part of the problem also is action economy. So say I, cast a spell and somebody counterspells me, I've lost my spell out of memory because it got counterspelled and I've lost my action. The other change they were making with it, you still lose your action because you still cast the damn spell, but you don't lose it out of memory if it's counterspelled.
Okay. Yeah.
That's interesting. I think that change is being done. If that's true, that change is probably being done because with the way they're designing the monsters in the new session, the counter spells are abilities, not spell slots.
Could be,
what
sure.
I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I already ran across one in the Fizzbangs. Not Fizzbangs.
Mordenkainen's.
No. The giant bug.
Bigsby's.
Oh, okay.
There is a Bigsby's. Yeah, he was one of those people. There's a monster in Bigsby's that basically has a counterspell that they can counterspell you, and when they counterspell you, you take 3d6 fire damage from it as well.
Okay.
But it's an ability that it can use once a turn, and I actually use it against Bill.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you can do that once a turn, that would really. I mean, every wizard's going to just be getting hosed by that.
Yeah. So that would make sense if you don't lose the spell. So that would be an appropriate change, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're still hosed because they're just going to counterspell you every time you try to cast, but at least
it still uses up that person's reaction.
Yeah.
So you just gotta I'm gonna counterspell it.
Yep, and you're not losing your spell every time you try it, so
Right.
it's a little better.
Yeah.
Shit, what? I don't even remember. We were talking about something before that, and I've already lost train of thought.
We got counterspelled.
We're not never.
Yeah, well, yeah, my brain got counterspelled.
They're just a new edition and just how it's.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
No one's crazy about it yet.
I've glanced through it, but that's about
I
it.
did.
I'm not a fan from what
I did think about.
I'm just saying I'm not
Go
a
ahead.
fan from what I've seen.
Yeah. I did want to try to go through and maybe run Adventures League with the new rules and try it out and play test it and see how it's coming. But knowing that it's coming out in May, it means that they're pretty much already done writing the book, or they're going through their final editing steps right now. There's nothing more that's going to change. If anything, they put the last thing out and they were just going to test just to make sure no one was upset with what was last published and just push it through to the printers. And since no one did, I think feedback ends in January, right at the beginning of January.
That's going to be a quick turnaround.
Yeah,
man.
January 2nd. So once January 2nd hits, there's going to be no more play tests and the stuff is done. So, there's no reason for me to play test it then,
Right, because you don't know what the final official version is going to be.
Yeah. So Bill, you said you've been playing since Chainmail. How have you dealt with all these addition changes, like from Chainmail to first to second to third to fourth? We know you quit, so we know what happened there.
Well, there was Chainmail to Dungeons and Dragons, then there was basic Dungeons and Dragons, advanced Dungeons and Dragons,
Really, you just
all the
roll
variants,
with the changes, because back then the changes actually made sense, because you're basically starting out with. Well, I started out with an alpha version, then it went to the beta, and then it went to the published version, and then we could do it better doing this, and it was all back then. It was all still based on Thaco. For those of you that don't know, is to hit armor class 0. And for us old timers, is like, you've got an armor class of this. Well, I got to roll this flat.
Yeah.
You knew what you had to roll.
Yeah, you figure out what your Thaco is. You subtract whatever their armor class is, and that's the number you need to roll.
It's
I don't want to play referencing a spreadsheet. I know there's a lot of systems out there still that reference spreadsheets and shit. But,
this is not Rollmaster. Dungeons and Dragons didn't have spreadsheets except for 3rd edition. If you played a Frenzied Barbarian or Frenzied Berserker, then you did.
I have to deal with spreadsheets enough in my day job. I ain't gonna play spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So, Billy, since you've been playing all the versions, which is the best?
Oh, gosh. That's actually a hard one.
I think it's 4th edition, right?
Yeah, nobody's ever said those words together without laughing right after it.
I'm going to have to say 3.5, but 3.5 was also what broke the game. You had such variety. I mean, the players could go out and get, a myriad of little softback books that would go through what you wanted to specialize in. Like the not the barbarians, the Vikings. You could come up with a troll-born runecaster as a Viking. Or, and what we found out, a first level elven archer with the correct equipment and the correct book that went with it was not an elven archer, but was an elven machine gunner.
I agree completely with what he's saying. Like 3.5 was the best edition of D&D. 3.5, 3.0, and 3.5 also had the most broken shit you've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we had the frenzied berserker in our party who literally one-rounded a Tarask. Like just the first round of combat, bam, it's dead. Well, all right.
Yeah, it's a little broke.
Oh, it was a lot.
I mean, if he swung for 800 damage, yeah.
Look, I know 4th edition got that way too because things became so varied and so just there was so much data out there when you started using all of the books from all the different builds and everything like that. Like Orcus was the big bad for 4th edition, and there were multiple builds that could solo Orcus, not in one round, but in a quick number of rounds, and just never have a chance for him to actually harm you in any way. Like there was a raging barbarian, going back to that, really was a raging fighter who basically would get 300 to 400 temporary hit points in a single round, and Orcus can't do anything against that. So you basically just run around, stab him to death 4 or 5 times, and after a round or 2, he would be dead. So I guess that's like the trade-off. The more customization you allow, the more doors you open for broke-ass characters.
Second edition had a buttload of books. I mean, a buttload, way more than 3rd edition had. But you never heard about stuff like that with second ed, because 2nd edition it didn't have feats in it. It didn't have all these other little tiny things you could purchase. And you were getting at most 2 attacks around. That was pretty much it.
If you were lucky, you might get a 3rd every once in a while. Yeah.
If you were dual wielding, you could do a 3rd.
Wasn't worth crap.
that was Yep.
Which is weird because, you think about 2nd edition being that way, and the game being kind of built around the struggle to do things. Where you look at like MCDMs and a couple other systems and how they're designing it, and I guess the Dragondale system the Critical Role's coming out with is the same way.
Yeah,
Dragonheart, I think.
Whatever it's called. Where you don't miss any of your attacks; they always hit no matter what. You just always roll for damage.
Or Daggerheart. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's just weird that we've gone from like where 2nd edition was and 3rd edition was, and to a lesser part 5th edition. I never felt like 5th edition I was losing my turn per se. Even if I missed, I didn't feel like I was losing my turn because I was still doing something, even if I missed. But I didn't really see that as a big problem, and I see a lot of people talking about how that's what they want. They want that MCDM system where they want to always be moving forward, always be hitting and doing damage and making progress.
Yeah. That's video gamer mentality.
It kind of is video gamer mentality. It's also kind of just like the cultural stigma as it is right now. Like you play God of War, your attacks are always hitting, whether or not they're doing damage or as much damage.
Yeah, video gamer mentality.
I don't know. It's.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it we
were the video gamers, and we didn't want that. We were the video gamers that played 3.5, played 4, and played 5.
Chris, we're also over 40. Like we are that older gamer. We played fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Remember that shit?
Which one?
The one. no one forgets the one.
Okay, the Konami one, right? And no one can get past the fucking stage where we're going underwater.
We played
Battletoads.
Like we played the hard games back then, and we learned that this is what you got. So enjoy it and make do. Nowadays they have access to. I mean, every child is born with a phone in their hand. There's nothing wrong with people wanting to play tabletop games like that. It's not for everybody. I mean, me and you, we constantly have discussions on here. I end up running the Kobold Alone one shot last night, and I'm not going to go through all the details right now on it. But remember how you were like, you got to have maps, you got to have all these miniatures and everything, and I actually broke out those new sets that I bought at Ollie's. So I had everything laid out. I gave everybody their miniatures. We didn't use a single one of them. I ended up just using notebook paper and drawing out the house and showing people where they were.
Yeah,
because it worked.
Right, but that game there, okay. Specifically, you didn't need all of that to run the game that you ran.
I mean, I needed to know roughly positioning of players because they're chasing this kobold through the house. So we had to at least track that to an extent. But it made it very difficult because I don't have all the layout of the house, and the house has it's got 5-foot corners here and everything else. So it'd be difficult to map that house out on a game board and just try to run through that thing with minis. It was way easier to just do it on paper, and everybody had a blast with it. I'm not going to say players are spoiled today, but they've just seen what you get with Matt Mercer, and they've got access to so much that they're expecting a different style of game.
I mean,
younger
I'll
players
go
are.
over to Home Depot, and I'll take my little flash drive. It said I needed a blueprint of this map, and this map. About $8. I've got huge maps, and I've got a clear piece of like a vinyl protector that I put over the top of it so they don't mark it up, but I can. And they're like, "Oh, this is great." I'm like, "Yeah."
You're spoiled, kid. You're spoiled.
Wait, Home Depot?
No, not Home Depot.
Office
Depot.
He meant Office Depot, I think.
Oh, because they stopped printing out all my maps for me. So what I would used to do is I used to basically take all my maps and I would set it up to the appropriate size. Now, when you say you're planning out blueprints, is it more just like actual blueprints as everyone pictures a blueprint, like blue paper, white lines?
Well, it's a picture on a blueprint piece of paper.
Because I was printing it. So I would do that, and they said, no, that takes up too much ink. There's too much color density in that photo.
I haven't had a problem.
And they wouldn't do it. So then I found a way around that system where the color density wasn't an issue. And they were printing it, but then they basically said, no, we're not going to print anything else. If it has more than 2 colors, they won't print it for me anymore. And it has to be mostly, if not more than 50% white. So they stopped doing that completely. Now that was because I always ordered it online and picked it up, but I never went into Home Depot or Office Depot to do it. So maybe it might be different. But that's all the maps I did for the Grumpy tournament. Okay, like those where I tried to get printed on blueprints and they said no, and I had to print them on poster because they were pictures, not blueprints.
Of them. I can think of other words, but I'll use that.
But like the year before, I could print them all out on blueprint paper. I did do a little bit more diving into it, and it does seem that the blueprint, the printer that they use the blueprint machine on, is not technically designed for that level of detail, and the inkjet itself will get clogged. And that can cause a problem. And it does use more ink than the other printer that they have to print posters. So it does cost them more than what we're getting out of it. So there is a technical reason, but the cost really isn't the problem. And I know a couple times they have broken the printer because of it. So I don't know. But yeah, I used to do that a lot, and now I can't anymore. I burned that bridge, I guess.
My bridge is still there, so okay.
I'll send you the files next time and see
because
if it
I
works.
normally go in on a Sunday because my games are on Mondays. So
yeah, when no one's around. All right, I'll try it and see. I'll try going in next time and trying and seeing how that works.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've been in there trying that anyway. Might be different employees and everything.
Oh yeah, it's Office Depot. No one has a career there.
Right. Maybe the manager, and that would be it.
So I did actually. What the big headache that I got? I think I talked about this. Was I tried printing out all of the. I tried printing out the maps. The maps didn't work. They said I had to be posters. So I did swap them over to posters. I put the order back in. The price went from like $38 to $300. And they're printing out the character sheets. And I had basically did the character sheets on D&D Beyond and basically saved the PDFs of those. And at the bottom it says not for distribute, not for distribution. And it was like for personal use only, it's not for distribution. And they said, okay, we can't do this anymore. We can't print this order because you don't own this work. I'm like, I'm not distributing it. I'm not selling it. It's character sheets for the game. They're like, well, we already canceled the order. You have to put it in again. So I had to put it in for a third time before I get everything printed. I haven't had the best of luck recently.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that, telling that story on here, but that was 6 months ago at least. When you told
it was back
story,
in July.
So, yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's.
So one of the topics you wanted to talk about was all the failures of the year or whatever. So there's one of them.
I didn't want to talk about. I want to talk about best products of the year.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the grumpy podcast, man. You're in the wrong place.
No, we can talk about positive things too.
Go ahead. What are we doing here? What are we talking about?
Well, we were still talking to Bill about him doing his maps and stuff.
Well, yeah. I thought we'd already gotten there.
Oh, okay.
No, I started on a tangent about Office Depot.
But yeah, that's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I normally do.
Go ahead. Yep.
I've got way too many maps right now, but for the AL game, that's what I use. I run a home game, but I use. All right, let me qualify this. It is a. Oh damn! What size is it? 30-something inch TV that I have laid down on top of the coffee table, and it is nothing more than a map generator. It is not a VTT. VTT means you have the software and everybody runs around with the software. Screw that. You have figures, you have a map, you have sound coming out from underneath.
Yeah, that's more than enough.
Let's say it's interesting that you define a VTT as the figures have to be on it. If you're using a TV, you're in VTT.
I didn't say I wasn't in the territory, but it is not a VTT because I do not use the software for VTT. They have their actual little 28mm characters, and they set them on top. I've got the protective covering, and I can shift maps around left and right, and even use the animated maps.
That's still a virtual tabletop. It's not about virtual figures. It's about the virtual tabletop, and the tabletop is virtual.
Well, the tabletop is physical.
The figures don't factor in at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's television.
Right, so it is physical.
Yeah, there's a TV sitting on the tabletop.
That's what makes it a virtual tabletop.
Oh boy, we're gonna go round and round about real definitions here.
Well, I mean, I guess he could start, microtransactioning the players. Like, hey, do you want to see your fireball effect go off? It's going to be $3.99. But I brought you brownies, Bill. Okay.
Yeah. All right, $2.99.
And considering my home group is all female, yeah. If you guys have never run an all-female group, it is.
I've never had the joy of
It is
that,
an
unfortunately.
eye-opener, and I suggest that you read at least one
Very
or
different
two
ways of
romance novels.
Oh, okay. I have
Very
played.
different way of addressing the situation.
I've played under a few female game masters. There's some girls I used to hang out with that played and ran
Oh yeah,
Vampire the
done that.
Masquerade, and like that worked out beautifully. They were really fucking good storytellers.
Yeah, I've had females at the table. We definitely sound like we're 80s.
I
nerds
know,
now.
right?
We have females at the table.
Now, don't get us wrong. We enjoy having the ladies at the table. They add spice, a completely different perspective, and we enjoy that. You actually challenge the DMs in their.
I just like to make my wife cry. Like I like to make the scene so big and emotional that she starts crying, and that's when I know that I've got the right tempo of the story being played out correctly. That's my gauge.
Where you're sitting back and one of them lets a secret go, and then you're holding secrets, and then as the DM you just sit back and go watch the fireworks. And if my players will do that on their own. I am so screwed.
So I guess we can get into our main topic that we had for this evening, which was the best products for tabletop role playing in 2023. Jay, that was your homework for the week. Did you actually come up with something?
Well, this is the first time I remember that conversation, but I have a number one easily.
Oh, what is it?
Bridgetown.
Really?
Oh, hell yeah. Bridgetown was an amazing setting that I still want to run, and I just haven't gotten around to it because I barely ever get to play any tabletop games.
Yeah, I really do like Bridgetown. I really am looking forward to working with Technical Grimoire sometime in the next year. If not the next year, the year after, whichever. I know they're still doing overpowered stuff. They put up a Christmas module.
Yeah.
We didn't get a chance to kind of go through that this year, but
no. Bill, are you familiar with Bridgetown? Okay, so it runs on the Troika RPG system, which I don't know. I think it's a European system. TROIKA exclamation point. And it's a OSR, like it's old school revival type of system. It's very simplistic, very clean. And Bridgetown was a setting that was released for it that is just, it's very sort of tongue-in-cheek and a bit ridiculous, where you're in a universe where there is a sky, there is a giant pit, and there's a bridge that everybody lives on. And it's an infinitely long bridge. So it goes from who knows how far to who knows how far. And I think we estimated it was like 150 feet wide. So all the resources, everything that you've built in this world has to come off of that bridge somehow. So, there might be sections of the bridge that are missing chunks where people have taken them and built stone houses out of them. Might be using some mushrooms that grow off of the side as food resources. And a lot of the bridge is broken up into sort of sections where people have walled it off and they control little territories. And they're, each of them has like a gate, and some of the gates, I don't have it right here in front of me, but some of them were absolutely amazing. If you try to pass through the gate, you have to deal with whoever runs that gate, which might mean you have to do something for them. The one that comes to mind, it was a brewer's gate. I don't recall the name of it, but basically you have to party with them all night. And if you survive the party, you get to go through the gate the next morning. But yeah, just a very cool sort of setting. And one of the things that was mentioned in the book is that sometimes people show up randomly and claim that they're from some other world and they fell out of the sky and landed on the bridge. So you could literally use this for any other game and just have your players, fall in some portal and fucking show up here.
Not bad.
Yeah, and for everyone listening, I'll have it linked in the podcast chat section of our Discord if you want to check it out. It's only $30 for the hardcover.
Yeah, it's a small book, but I paid for it and I was absolutely thrilled when reading through it. It's wonderful. Plus, the art is fantastic. It's very reminiscent of like a 1970s Ralph Bakshi art style.
Well, that's nice.
Yep, and you can make sure you can get the official Bridgetown cobblestone dice.
Oh, I didn't get those.
Yeah, they're like little D6s made out of cobblestone. They look
Damn
great.
it. I need to get them.
There's also the Bridgetown balm and beard and skin balm, but you don't have to get that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna go that far.
What, you don't have a beard anymore?
No, I definitely have a beard. Damn, those dice are sweet.
Oh, my wife makes beard balm and oil, so.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
So Bill, I know I threw this on you last minute, but what's your product for this year? What was the best thing that came out? Or best thing that you were exposed to eat, that would also count?
There's a couple of things. One is the Underdark box set, where it's basically grits going through Menzo brands and all that funny stuff. It's a nice setup, but to be honest, I got it for the figures. Because
okay.
What is this thing we're talking about? Because I have
just
not heard about this.
A tabletop game. It's kind of like an old board game, but it's got several different types of figures: drow, goblins, a demon, a couple of other things. Yeah,
the Tyrants of the Underdark
and
box set.
There was, I think it cost for the game is like $50-$60, but you get 45-50 figures.
Yeah. Oh, wait, they re-released this. Okay, so I play Tyrants of the Underdark religiously. Me and my gaming group, we play this thing every few months. So they must have re-released it with all the miniatures because that was not a thing.
I basically got it for the miniatures, and I mean, I like the artwork. Plus, I'm a fan of the Drow and Shatterkai. But as far as D&D goes, I'm just so glad they re-released Planescape.
Okay, are we sure? Are we certain it's Tyrants of the Underdark?
100%
because I'm not
certain. If you'll hold on just a second, you guys talk for a second. Let me go look.
Yeah, let's do that because I'm very curious what this game is. But Tyrants of the Underdark is a game that, like I said, I love. I play it all the time, but it doesn't really have like miniature figures with it. Not that I've ever seen, and I'm having a hard time finding anything online about that. So it's likely it's something else.
That's probably one of those box sets that they came out with.
There's so much stuff. It's hard to keep up with it all.
I remember buying a bunch of the Planescape, or not the Planescape, but the HeroScape game when it came out.
Mm-hmm. Close, it's
because
a
they just basically had like the hex grid, and you had the miniature.
That one I think has been out for a long time, actually.
No, but I have that one, and I have the
because I have that one also, Legend of Drizzt.
Yeah, and I had that box set, and that's where I got my first Jaraxxle mini for when I ran Waterdeep Dragon Heist.
Okay.
So I needed Jaraxxle, and that was the only one that actually had that. But yeah, that box set is out there. I think our store has a copy of it, but it's like $65 for, like you said, 100 minis. All those games were great with all the minis that came through. Onslaught's the replacement. And I kind of like what they're doing with Onslaught, where the first box set comes with 2 armies and all the minis, all the bad guy minis. So like you get a group of I think Zentarum, and you get a group of Harpers, and those are the two like heroic teams, and you can fight through all the goblins and orcs, and I think they have a couple hill giants and a black dragon, an adult black dragon, all in the box. So there's like
there were
about
quite
100
a few.
minis or so. But all the booster sets that come out for Onslaught are different factions that you buy, and there's like 8 figures, 10 figures in a faction. So like the Red Wizards came through with a bunch of those miniatures. There was a set of goblins they came out with, and you wouldn't know that there's like 8 minis in like this little tiny box because they don't really show it off at all, and it doesn't make any sense at all like what's in the Onslaught faction packs. But if you actually have seen a video of like what's in there, like there's a lot of really cool minis, and like I've bought a couple of those sets because I wanted like a bunch of Red Wizards. So okay, now I have a bunch of Red Wizards from this set. It cost me $20, and it's better than the blind packs. But they're not Onslaught. I don't see being played anywhere. No one's clamoring to play Onslaught. So
Yeah, I never even heard of this one. I'm looking at it right now. Because I buy most of the D&D board games, and this one just skipped through.
Yeah, like I said, just kind of skipped through. But like, the mini arrows. That's one of the faction packs I bought because it comes with a big, huge orc, a female orc barbarian, a goblin playing a lute, and then was a kobold, I think, that was casting a spell, a female hobgoblin figure, which is they don't make many female hobgoblin figures.
You're not going to see many of those. And
there's some other guy, some other kobold. Oh yeah, that's right. It was a kobold. Way of the Sun Soul monk.
Yeah.
So it's a kobold with like glowing hands. So I saw that faction pack. It's like, oh, that one's fucking the best. And then I also got the Red Wizard one, which had a bunch of Red Wizards in it. And they're not your typical, like if you saw the movie, how you saw like they're all just like pale skinned humanoids with tattoos and shit. These Red Wizards, let me get the picture open here a little bit bigger. No, you bastard. I think the one was like a Duergar, one was a Deep Gnome, a Lizard Folk, a Ramashin.
Really?
Yeah. Your typical pale skin one.
Yeah, the Rashmani.
Yeah, and there was another one that was like a demon or something. I can't really tell from the picture. But I have that as a box.
So wait a minute. So they had a lizard folk red wizard of Thay?
Yes.
Wow.
They've come a long way since, their slaving days.
Oh, are they not?
Anyone who's not human?
Are they not still enslaving everybody? Because that's literally what their culture is built on.
No, they don't do that anymore. Not officially. Well, I do have the official Ed Greenwood book, Land.
You mean the authentic lore?
The authentic lore, which came out this year, which is one of the contenders for my product of the year, which does state in there that they are a land of slavers, and they are considered chaotic evil because of that, and there's no redemption for them. They should be murdered on sight, and you should free all the enslaved people. Like, there's a little tag right here. It says that. But yeah,
I will never be okay with Duergar and Lizard Folk as Red Wizards of Thay, because no.
I just thought it was cool, so I bought the box set. So they just now I just have a bunch of cool.
You need actual bad guys, That's anyway.
So yeah, Onslaught's good to look at too for a bunch of factions.
So Bill, you said you had a couple of them that stood out to you. What was your other one?
For Planescape, I have always enjoyed Planescape. I've got every edition of Planescape and Dragon magazines, etc., that relate to it. And I have taken my regular players are getting ready to take a step out into the multiverse.
Yeah, we talked a lot about Planescape on here. So I was vaguely familiar with Planescape, but I never had a chance to play it with second edition. Chris here knew almost very little about it. And so we brought our friend Christian on it, who is like you. He's got everything. He knows Planescape from top to bottom, and he sort of filled us in on everything.
Yeah,
It seems interesting. I want to play Planescape as much as I want to play the Ravnica setting.
I'm way more interested in Planescape than I was Ravnica.
Well, it would take the same amount of effort for me to do either one.
Yeah, honestly, it would probably be easier for you to play Ravnica just because you play Magic. So
yeah, probably, yeah. But I don't know. I don't think it'd be easier, but I definitely think it would be. I would get the terminology faster. At least I know what the factions are.
Right. Yeah, you know what Gruul and Azorius and all these things mean. So.
And
But I do like the outside of Sigil, that open world area, that one map that they had was more interesting to me than Sigil was. The kind of chaotic landscape that you can kind of travel for a while and not end up in any one particular way or location.
What they call it, the Borderlands?
Yeah, Sigil is nothing but a Radiant Citadel on a Metropolis level.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played many adventures in Sigil. Definitely done a lot of that. But
I don't think anyone that I know of played Radiant Citadel anything. Like, it seemed like an interesting concept, a giant city on a giant prism in the ethereal plane. But
I mean, there's your thing for your Adventures League.
I don't wanna.
Well,
that take even more work than Planescape to run.
I mean, it's there. All you have to do is to read through it.
Yeah,
run it.
Wow.
If nobody's run it, it's something new for everybody.
If I haven't seen it, it's new to me.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, I guess it's left for me for my product of the year.
I was about to ask you, what was your favorite thing of the year?
So my favorite thing that I experienced this year, I'll give two things because I kind of spoiled what was what it was the winner last week, which is the Humblewood campaign starter set. I honestly think that if you're looking for something that's not 5th edition, that's new player friendly, that's
I thought Humblewood was 5e.
It is 5e.
Oh, okay. You said not 5th edition.
Sorry, not D&D core stuff.
Gotcha.
It's not D&D core. It's still 5e. That's a QT setting for someone that doesn't want to play a hardcore, gritty setting or a setting for kids. That campaign set comes with all the monsters as little cardboard tokens, little stands for it, a bunch of maps. Maps are always great. And then the maps that they have in the booklet are really easy to duplicate. The lore behind it is presented in a really easy, digestible format. Like, I swear to God, I tried multiple times to start learning Ouroboros and that setting. It's just too much. It's hundreds of pages of just lore on top of lore on top of lore with no adventure to get your feet wet in to start learning that setting.
Yeah, it's right up my alley.
Whereas Humblewood is like, okay, here's what's there, here's how people act, here's all the races, here's a little bit about each of them, and here's the adventure for you to get started. All in a nice 300-page booklet. Like I said, all the maps come with it to run that game. They have all the monsters for you, so you don't have to spend any more investment. And you get the discounted imperfect set, which is literally meaningless. There's nothing wrong with what you get. And it's like less than $40 to start with. So I think that is my product of the year. And I know it came out in like 2019, but whatever.
You just got it. I mean, we just talked about a board game from like
Right.
2013 or something, so it's okay.
So my official product that came out this year and is from this year would have to be Keys from the Golden Vault. I ran that in both Adventures League. I ran that in my online stream, and I had a lot of fun with a lot of those adventures. I nitpicked a couple of those, like the ones that just had nothing but veterans left and right. But all the adventures were varied and different. Like one was attacking Scrooge's money bin. You know, it was full of beaglies. Another is raiding a town and, beating up a bunch of automatons. One is going through and, diving the depths of hell to find, the Tome of Darkness. Like, there's everything you want in that little small campaign book, and I don't think there's a miss in there. Like I read through all of them. There's a couple that are kind of like needlessly complicated, but they're not so bad that you can't figure out what to do or where to go. And the players can easily figure out how to address the situation, and if all else fails, you can take the physical challenge and still be successful at it. In the ALO games, there were a couple times where Bill here and a couple other players were able to go beat the entire thing without drawing a sword, And there are a couple other times where shit just hit the fan, and it's like, all right, how many fireballs do we have? We're going to use them all. Let's go.
Fireballs coming online, BA.
Bill for one of them, like he like the whole idea was basically rescue a guy that got kidnapped and bring him back home. And so he got him there, and it was a higher level campaign, and he basically just teleported the guy away. And then that left the rest of the party.
I remember you telling this story. Yeah.
They had to fight the big bad. They're like, we can't fight the big bad. And they all ran away. They got TPK'd by a dragon.
Hey, mission was successful, man. That's all that mattered.
It's like the GTA final, like mission successful. F.
Yeah.
So, like, I really like Keys from the Golden Vault. All the writers in it were fantastic. Like that kind of book is. I know it's not like what you want, Jay, as from a standpoint of a bunch of lore, but it gives me things to play that I don't have to prep.
Yep. Not everything that's going to be released is going to be up my alley or up your alley, and that's perfectly fine.
But I can grab any one of those settings, make it fit in wherever I want, and run it pretty quickly. And that's all I need for Adventures League. And like I said, Keys was the book for that. So that was actually my product of the year from this year. All the Ed Greenwood stuff is, technically should win, since all those books that came out this year. I think the Minx one came out this year officially.
I thought it was last year. Maybe. It's right around if it was this year, it was near the beginning of the year.
But so that's I got all those. I think I got Minx last year. I think it's the other three that I got this year. I got the Rashomon, the Border Kingdoms, and the Land of Fae, Fae, Land of the Red Wizards. And I also got the Zentarum book that he wrote as well too.
Yeah.
That's been out for a couple years though. I believe it's just not as a physical book to buy yet. I'm just
thrilled. I'm thrilled that he's able to release these things, so that no matter what WotC is saying is the new Fae or the new whatever, we can just ignore it and go with the actual lore from the guy who created the fucking realms.
Right. What's weird to me is, like, I know. Have you been listening to any of his podcasts?
Not lately. I've missed the last month or so worth, but
one of his podcasts, he talked about how he specifically has multiple rooms in his house that's just a desk and what he's writing on that desk.
Yep.
So he has multiple computers, multiple desk setups. It's like, okay, this desk here is the Waterdeep desk, where I do all the Waterdeep writing. And it's like, this one over here is the Zentarum desk, where I do all the Zentarum writing. Like, imagine how big his house is. Have all these separate desks. But
Hey, if that's what works for him, man, keep doing it because he puts out a lot of stuff.
Information stored in his head.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what gonna do, man. He's getting old. He's like the last.
Because he releases a video every week where he talks about some tiny, minute piece of lore that it doesn't matter. It has no effect upon the world. It might be some little piece of history from 300 years ago in the realms, or some NPC that you will never see or hear about except when he talks about it. Mm-hmm. And it's just fascinating to listen to him get that in depth about his setting. Because when I started out, Forgotten Realms was brand spanking new. Like the box set had come out 2 years before I started, I think. And just to have seen it become what it is now. Third edition, it was massive. Like Forgotten Realms was major setting. There was tons and tons of information and lore that was released during that time period. I don't know what they did in fourth and fifth edition. Everything is in the Sword Coast.
Yeah, I mean, everything else is the Forgotten Realms.
Yes, yeah, we've all seen that map.
Oh yeah, the Darkhold Secret of Zentarum. That book was really good. I did read through that. It was nice and quick. He wasn't the main writer on that. He just kind of like advised everyone else on it. But like all the data that's in there with like the leaders and all their stats and the caves that were made below the Zentarum and the Darkhold Castle and stuff like that are all it's just a really good source book for the Zentarum stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish they did more with the Zentarum at this point.
Oh yeah, let's promote the big bad guys.
Please, you need good bad guys to have good guys.
Know where that would go.
It's yeah, but it's just like in pro wrestling. You got your face and you got your heel, but you don't have either if you don't have the other one.
Yeah, we need a really good. I think I just said I think like 4 times, but
yep.
I really want there to be another big bad force out there that people can universally get behind as being bad without any kind of justification of making them good. Like orcs used to be that, back in the Tolkien era, where orcs were just the chaotic evil force that you had to fight against because they would do nothing but kill and slaughter you.
Mm-hmm.
And at least in my lifetime, that's how orcs started. Orcs are just the big bad guys to now they're misunderstood aliens from another planet and or mushroom people that just like to fight a lot but have a good sense of honor and kinsmanship and live and die, by their code of honor, and thus they are not really evil, but they're just misunderstood. And now that we understand them, they're our best friends. And okay, that happens. But we still have the undead. Oh no, the undead, well that's actually, half the undead are good undead, the other half are just being controlled. They're just corpses that are walking around. Necromancers are really bad, but then you have the good undead who run around and do good things for the dead people. And the vampires became the same fucking thing, and we've kind of lost all these really good bad guys, to people wanting to justify them being good guys.
I blame Wolverine.
Why do you blame Wolverine?
Because he was the first big anti-hero that I remember growing up.
Punisher.
Who?
Punisher.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Punisher, I guess, I would have known him before then. But yeah, the sort of anti-hero thing just sort of really kicked off in the 90s. And it's driven it to where it is now. Fucking Deadpool was a bad guy when he started out, and now he's fucking hottest thing going. And I know this doesn't relate directly to D&D, but it all sort of ties together.
Yeah, well, like the Zentarum kind of fall in that bucket, for lack of a better term. To bring it back to D&D, Zentarum is just a group of underground mercenary slash thieves who are doing it for the betterment of society, but they're doing the things that other people don't want to do. The things the Harpers won't do, the Zentarum will do. They're still out there to make a buck, but you need an army. We got an army.
The Zentarum, like they always had, they controlled certain areas, Hillsfar and some areas around it, and they had their hands in a lot of different pockets. You can kind of think of them like the mob. They dealt in prostitution, they dealt in arms, they dealt in mercenaries, they dealt in murder, like whatever you needed done, that was who you could go to. And they had like the leadership of it was Manchun and I'm drawing blank on what the other leader's name was.
So the current leader of the Zentarum is a guy called the Paraghost, who is a large assumed humanoid in white armor that is secretly possessed by what's like 3 or 4 ghosts, that has a flying steed and pretty much is just unstoppable in combat. I've seen his stat block. He's pretty much unstoppable. You have to kill him and all of his ghosts
3 times, 4 times,
and then he comes back again. All the while he's flying around on his immortal steed, throwing his sword at you. So Manchun is a presence, but he's not really in charge of things, because the current Manchun that's there is not the Manchun. It's a known clone of Manchun who
the real Manchun the real Manchun, according to Ed Greenwood, is too busy with actual things that matter.
He's still asleep, I think, is what he said in his last podcast.
It could be. But like Manchun, just he's got his hands in everything.
Yeah, and then there's Fazul and
Fazal. Fazal Shimbrel was the other leader of the Zent.
And there's a Shame, or just some other commander that they have. So I mean, like, there's a, but they're no longer like even when you play through Baldur's Gate 3, the Zentarum are there.
I know, we dealt with them. We bought shit from them.
But they're the vendor in the bad guy area. They're not the vendor in the good guy area. That's like their only role until the very end, where
like you could tell they were bad guys right off because they sell you a human being. Like they're bad guys. They didn't hem or haw about it.
That wasn't technically the Zentarum. That was a member of the Zentarum who had kidnapped somebody, and he just happened to be there at the time. So,
if they keep the current trajectory with the Shattered Obelisks, we'll definitely have a bad guy showing back up from the wrong world.
Yeah, Vecna is the presumed big bad of 5.5.
It's
I know the Shattered Obelisk. I don't care about spoilers at this point in time. The Shattered Obelisk, the idea that there's a void-touched Elder Brain. I don't remember.
I haven't gone to the back of the book yet.
I can't remember if it's dealt with or not at the end of it. The other thing is that Baldur's Gate 3 deals a lot with that side, not the void, but just elder brains and mind flayers. So like mind flayers, you play through Baldur's Gate 3, that's like the big question all throughout Baldur's Gate 3 is whether or not mind flayers are all inherently evil, if they can be redeemed.
Are you going to turn into one?
Do they have a soul? And are you going to turn into one? But then if you do turn into one, do you have a soul? Do you still have... It's a question of when are you going to turn completely evil? And still I won't spoil the end of Baldur's Gate 3 or anything like that, but there's there's some very definitive answers given by NPCs, but there's still a little bit of ambiguity, whatever that word is. Yeah, as to like whether or not they are truly evil. If left outside of a colony, if left outside of the hive, whether or not a mind flayer can be good, because there are quote unquote good mind flayers. But that goes back to my point
Stop it. They eat brains. They eat human brains. They're bad guys.
That goes back to the point where I talked about initially. It's like, why are we turning every bad guy good? It annoys me.
Well, I mean, you've got the ultimate
but
illithid that runs off, the neo-illithid.
In the Shatter Keep, yeah. The Shatter Keep, the Shattered Obelisk, yeah. They can, because they open up the void and like start bringing in stuff from the void in the Shattered Obelisk. I can kind of see them pulling in more aberrations in the future, because right now I think we can all say that beholders are evil, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what about the beholder that's runs a bar in
evil?
But he runs a bar.
Evil.
But he runs a bar. He's good. He has a business. He follows all the rules to run a business.
No, he is a capitalist swine.
He's a capitalist pig. But he lives out on the rock, whatever that place is, in the middle of nowhere. I mean,
he lives on Dwayne Johnson.
No. He lives on.
In
Spelljammer, that stupid.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't look at the current Spelljammer. I know what you're talking about because they released the. Yep.
It's not current. That's old Spelljammer. They carried it forward.
Spelljammer. I never played Spelljammer, so.
There's a few out
there. There's
a
big town.
When
I can't remember what it's called.
Spelljammer first came out, we got it. We went through it, and we turned it into the taxi service to go from world to world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Githyanki used to be super bad, and now they're good-ish. Goblins are always in that weird middle ground now, where everybody wants them to be good. Thank God for Goblin Slayer, just making them just the most evil thing on the face of the planet, and keeping them that way with no redemption whatsoever.
Part of that, I blame a lot of that on World of Warcraft. Like the world
making goblins good, yeah.
Yes, that's heavily where that, and orcs, like that really and truly started because of frickin' Warcraft. You started getting these pint-sized, cute goblins. Like if you read about Tolkien talking about the goblins, they're all evil. Yep. They're not tiny. They're like 5 to 6 feet tall. And then they sort of changed them with Warcraft. If you look in Pathfinder, they literally are just running Warcraft goblins. They're all alchemists and shit like that.
Yeah.
At least in my homebrew setting, I keep goblins the way they were intended. They are not small creatures. They are medium-sized. They stand between 5 to 6 feet tall. In general, they're just evil.
There's a point in time, and I think it's Warcraft 2 that the point in time it happened where goblins went from being kind of like lesser orcs to gremlins. Mm-hmm. And now there are more gremlins than they are lesser orcs. Because you look at goblin now, especially from Warcraft, you look at that and go, that is a gremlin. That is a mogwai that ate food after midnight and became a gremlin.
Yep.
Second best Christmas movie ever.
Yeah. First.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, it's Die Hard. We all know it's Die Hard.
No, it's the Muppets Christmas Carol.
See here, we could argue literally what is the greatest Christmas movie of all time. I got done watching Home Alone earlier, and that's like right near the top 2. So
no, it's not. You want to know why it's not? Because it takes an hour and a half to get to the good part of that movie.
Oh, it's a solid film either way.
I mean,
look, hey, Harry and Marv getting destroyed for 30 minutes at the end of the movie is absolutely amazing, but it's a good movie either way.
Fair enough. So, we've hit our hour, and I'm just gone on talking about random things. So here's a random thing I want to talk about. What is Gonzo?
No one knows.
Oh, I know. I have
Yeah.
the answer.
Oh well, I'd love to hear.
Gonzo.
Bill, do you know what Gonzo is? No. Okay.
Yeah, he's a mix
So-
of a couple of things. But what do
Yeah.
you say he is?
So we were watching Muppets Christmas Carol today because that's what we do on Christmas Eve in my house. And my daughter goes, "What's that thing next to the rat and the bird?" And we were like,
That's
what?
Gonzo.
She goes, "What's that thing?" said the rat and the bird. And it was something else, but she was calling Gonzo a bird. And we had to confirm that she was calling Gonzo a bird.
Oh,
So I
okay.
was like, shit, what is Gonzo? So I had to look it up. Okay. So first off, technically, Gonzo is non-binary. I don't know why it comes up.
Who the hell wrote that?
Jim Henson back in 1984.
Okay, well, that's weird, but that wasn't really a thing in 1984. But all right.
There's a comic strip where he walks up to the women's room, looks at it, and goes nah, and then walks over to the men's room, looks up and goes nah, and walks over to another room and it says whatever, and he goes yeah, and he goes
Okay, that's accurate. Like that was always Gonzo. Fair enough.
So Gonzo is a space alien from the planet Oznog.
Okay.
Okay, they're in the Muppets in Space movie. Gonzo basically wrestles with the fact with what he actually is. And he's told by the celestial fish that he actually used to exist on another planet and was lost by his parents. So they fly to this other planet full of other Gonzos. And essentially, Gonzo is the species. And they give him what its actual name is. I don't have that in front of me right now. But yeah, he's a...
So
he's
where is this information from?
It's from the movie Muppets in Space.
Really?
From
Okay.
1994.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one in a long time.
So the other reason why I looked that up is because we had to look up all the Ebenezer Scrooges because we wanted to figure out who was the best Ebenezer Scrooge. And we got
Patrick Stewart.
We got a couple generations of people here. Bill, who is your Ebenezer Scrooge of choice?
Patrick Stewart was okay, but there was one before him, but I can't even remember his name now.
I'll read the list off of official movie-based.
Yeah, that's what we're going to need because I don't know all of them.
Starting in 1934, Lionel Barrymore, Drew Barrymore's grandfather.
Yeah.
1938, Reginald Owen. 1951, Alistair Sin. 1982,
I remember that one.
1970, Albert Finney. 1979, Yosemite Sam. 1983, Scrooge McDuck. 1984, George C. Scott. 1988, Bill Murray. 1988, Rowan Atkinson. 1992, Michael Caine. 1994, Fred Flintstone. 1999, Patrick Stewart. 2004, Kelsey Grammer. 2009, Jim Carrey. 2017, Christopher Plummer. 2019, Guy Pearce. And 2022, Will Ferrell. Of that list, my wife said that Kelsey Grammer is actually quite good in the role, but went with Michael Caine as number one, followed by Patrick Stewart, and ending with Alistair Sim.
Do I think the Patrick Stewart Scrooge one is the best? No. Do I think he is the best Scrooge? Yes.
I'm going to go, there's three that I would say would be the best in my opinion. Michael Caine, Jack Palance.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Tim Curry.
All right. Jack Palance is a fantastic actor.
Yes.
Yeah, and everyone loves Tim Curry.
Oh, no.
Like, none of those are wrong answers.
I went with Michael Caine, Scrooge McDuck, and Bill Murray because, I think Scrooge McDuck is definitely the best Scrooge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally his name. Yeah, I actually watched Scrooged the other day, the Bill Murray one. I have not seen that movie in probably 30 years, so I had forgotten damn near everything. I really liked their version of the third ghost in that movie.
Yeah, the Grim Reaper with like the guys and coming out of his chest in the
Yeah, like the
elevator.
8 foot tall Grim Reaper with a television, like a TV screen face. Yeah, it was really kind of weird and freaky.
The Ghost of Christmas Past being that fairy girl that beat the shit out of Bill Murray.
Carol Kane was so good.
It was funny, but it was really weird. And then the guy who played the taxi driver, I don't remember him as the Ghost of Christmas Present.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but
he stuck with me for a while.
Yep. Carol Kane, like her playing the violent Christmas fairy, just beating Bill Murray up constantly, and every time she'd punch him, that's how she would transport him to another dream.
Yeah, it was quite creepy.
Yep.
Well, let's end the podcast on a D&D note. 2023 for D&D or tabletop in general, was it a good year or a bad year?
I think overall it was a very good year for tabletopping. I think for WotC it was an absolute horrible year. Because the only win that WotC got the entire year was Baldur's Gate 3. Which was a good win, but their movie flopped, even though it was a good movie. The OGL fiasco, the Pinkerton fiasco,
the AI art fiasco, layoffs.
Yep, that was a Hasbro thing more than that was company overall. But all
I'll
that
agree.
combined,
Everything
just a shit year for WotC.
For gaming itself, it's a pretty good year. As far as the company running it, it's a train wreck.
Yeah, I'll just say I agree, and I don't have to make all the same point. It was a good year overall. I ran AL for another year. I think it was relatively successful. Had a lot of good people sometimes. Yes. Met a lot of good people like Bill, and just it was it was stressful.
And our podcast is still here. We're still doing episodes every week. We have yet to miss a week. So there's that.
Stop jinxing us, Jesus.
New Year's coming up. We can afford to miss one if we want.
No, we can't.
But we're not going to.
That's the whole point. I got to record something. I got to figure I'm going to Disneyland in January, so you got to figure out something for that.
Just give me a heads up. I'll get Bruce or somebody on here.
This is your heads up.
Yeah, no, give me a heads up the week of. That way I remember, because I'm not going to remember this shit.
All right. Well, I'm signing off then.
All right. Well,
I'm around.
Bill, it was nice meeting you. Maybe I'll actually meet you in person at some point. Thanks for joining us for the podcast. Merry Christmas to everybody, and hopefully a Happy New Year for all of us. That's it. Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.